I never wanted to come back to that house. But after my mother passed, it became my responsibility. 12 years had passed. 12 years since the accident. I told myself it was just a house. Just old wood, old walls, but standing there. I remembered everything, especially that room upstairs, where Liam died, where I killed him. We were 7 identical twins, inseparable, they insisted, even though we grew up to be quite the opposite. But I remember that fateful day. We were playing upstairs, on the landing, to be exact, riding the waves, soaring through the sky. Nothing too serious, really, until one of us pushed the other. Just a tad too forcefully, he tripped and stumbled back. The rusty metal rail snapped, and our world turned upside down. The sound of his head hitting the concrete floor. It still echoes in my mind. The incident was labeled an accident, but I never found it easy to forget the astonished look in his eyes before he plummeted, like he could sense the gravity of the situation, and that's a memory I still carry with me today. I had never imagined that I would set foot in that house again, nor had I anticipated that I would have to occupy it after my mother passed away and the property was left to me as a legacy. As fate would have it, 12 long years had passed since the tragic accident that occurred when I last saw the very place where my beloved twin brother, Liam, passed away. Struggling with emotions and grieving deeply, I found myself standing on the porch with the keys in my hand, all of a sudden coming rushing back, the haunting guilt, the impenetrable silence, and the veiled truth that I have never courageously said out loud, that it was all my fault. I couldn't find the courage to sleep in the upstairs rooms, so I opted to stay in the guest room downstairs. However, sometime around 3 in the morning, I was startled out of my sleep by a slow, rhythmic creaking noise originating from the ceiling above. This haunting sound was accompanied by 2 soft, precise steps, a brief pause, and then a total of 2 more, which resembled the little pattern we used to indulge in when we played the role of soldiers. In the profound silence that followed, I managed to hear it, although it was incredibly faint and certainly unmistakable. The voice he used to whisper my name back to me when we were just kids. The words, drawn out like a timeless joke, left me completely frozen in bed, with my eyes still wide open, my chest tight, and feeling a sense of unease, because I had never experienced anyone else uttering my name like that before. The following morning, I continued to try and convince myself that it was all in my head, and so I went upstairs to the old bedroom that we used to share together. Everything within the room was covered in a thick layer of dust, except for just one piece of furniture, the mirror. This particular mirror was clearly wiped clean recently, without any smudges or haze around it. Right in the center of the room were 2 tiny handprints, one of which had been pressed firmly against the glass surface, while the other one was facing out towards me. As I carefully stared at these handprints, there was something interesting happening in the reflection that moved a shadow. It was quick and low. This mysterious shadow appeared to be someone darting behind me down the hallway. But when I then turned around and looked closely, I could see that there was no one there. Out of desperation, I found a local pastor who agreed to visit, though he seemed hesitant even before stepping inside, saying that houses like this often trap more than just memories. And after walking through in silence, He told me that if a child's spirit dies with fear and blame in its heart, it can twist into something else entirely. No longer a child, but something bitter, something focused, and that if Liam was still here, he might have changed, might not even recognize himself anymore, but he'd absolutely remember me and that night. After the pastor left, I found the name Liam scratched into the bathroom mirror from the inside. Backwards, like someone had been staring into the glass and carving it out, letter by letter. Following those 2 nights, around the exact same time, around 3:12 in the morning, I found myself desperately breathing, feeling entirely paralyzed, completely engulfed by a suffocating, crushing weight on my chest, trapped like something was tightly seated on me. Through that overwhelming darkness, I managed to see a shadowy figure. Concealed at the edge of my bed, a young boy with a completely familiar face, yet appearing darker, distorted. Nevertheless, even though it was my face, it somehow resembled the one I saw in dreams, with a frighteningly dull, grinning expression at the level of his jaws as he leaned far closer and whispered those evil words. "You took my turn." At that very moment, I must have passed out, for when I finally woke up, I found myself lying on the floor with a clotted blood stain under my nose, and an unsettlingly inexplicable thing happened. The bedroom door that I'd left open was locked from the front side, preventing me from leaving the room. It seemed like it was too much, going through all of it without packing, cleaning, or even saying farewell to the old neighborhood. I just decided it was sufficient enough, and everything seemed to have calmed down. With no further intention in mind, I simply closed up the house, found a buyer for it at a fraction of its worth, and handed it over to someone planning to dismantle the entire house and construct a barrage of apartments. For a brief moment in time, I could even accept that it might be all over. I have stopped dreaming, and it is not due to my healing or progressing, but rather because I am deeply apprehensive about what I might witness if I choose to open my eyes. I have gone through every single photograph we have ever taken as children together, and in every single one of them, Liam appears to be consistently looking at the camera with his eyes somewhat to the side, as if he were merely following our instructions while not following us at all, but rather just looking at me